Hello, Dan Ringwald here for the Personal Power Project, and I got another project for you. It's called a 5,000 gallon water tank. And how do you clean the bottom without having to get down inside of it, without having to dump all the water out, especially for people who are using rainwater filling up their tanks. You don't want to dump all the water out. And of course, if you use the tank, you're not using rainwater, you're using a well, you could use the water, drain it down to the bottom. You could get in there and do all kinds of things. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of labor. All these tanks, these water tanks, have a lip coming out at the bottom, an opening that's about 2 inches off the bottom. So you're not gonna drain the water out and have all the dirt go out. It's going to get stuck down there one way or another. A lot of people will go, well, that's where the water comes from the ground. There's dirt down there, so what? That's true, but if that dirt gets kicked up and keeps going into your filters, and you have to keep changing your filters and cleaning them and replacing them, that's not cheap to replace filters in a home coming from a well. So if you can get that dirt out of the tank either before it goes into the tank or get it out some way easily, I just tried a little something that might help out. Seems to be working. I've got more to do, but I'll show you what I've got here. So first of all, this is the 5,000 gallon tank that I installed a year or two back. And as you can see, it's the short flat. It's basically about 7 feet tall and about, I think, 12 feet in diameter. Okay, the opening up there. And we installed that because we have to decommission this one, which is probably more like maybe 10, 9/8 in diameter, something like that. But it's way taller. It's metal. And it's 7,500 gallon, and the reason that we're having to replace it is after 30 years it's starting to rot. And what you can see are places on the tank that it won't take much longer and it's going to rot through, and it just isn't going to work at all. Okay, yeah, you can get inside, you can clean these out, you can cover them with some type of plastic, baffles, plastic lining, or you can paint stuff on them. But I think by the time you get through doing all that, you're going to pay as much or more than just buying a new tank. If you get these size tanks that are 5,000 gallons, you don't even need permits, at least in Santa Barbara, California. But when you get to a size that's 7,500, more than 5,000, you need permits and all kinds of things. So to avoid the permit process, which is just another regulation that's a pain, you're better off getting a 5,000 gallon tank. And so here is the device I located. And it is none other than a pool cleaner, and it's a little robot, kind of like the vacuum cleaners in homes, and it is a Wybot. Okay, so it works on batteries. You can submerge it completely. You just drop it inside the tank, and I just dropped it in, gave it about 2 hours, and we're going to take a look at what's inside this. We'll open it up and see. So we got that opened up. Now we're going to open up, and this is a filter on the top and a filter on the bottom, and underneath that is all the stuff that it collected inside the tank, from the tank. So we'll pull this up, and voila. That's a whole lot of sand. So that's basically sand that comes up from the well pump, comes up into the tank, sits at the bottom. The bottom of this is like that. Okay, so it's basically just sucks water in there. It's got a couple of wheels, and it can go inside of a round tank. This little area here is where all the stuff goes up inside. It gets sucked up in there, and then it comes out into this compartment, and then that compartment stays, all the stuff stays in there because of these filters. And there's actually two filters. There's a fine filter and then another filter. Both of these filters need to be clean, but they do a really good job of stopping all that. Now typically in a swimming pool you'll get leaves, you'll get small sticks, you'll get dirt. You don't typically get a lot of sand like this, but this is a lot of sand. And it's surprising that this thing can even work its way down around all that. But in any case, you flush it all out, charge this thing back up, put it back in the tank. It lasts about 2 hours on a charge. If it's not that bad on the bottom, you can set it for multiple days, just leave it in there up to a week, something like that. But as bad as this tank is, and I've already spent probably 10 hours draining the tank, trying to clean it, flush it, do all kinds of things, that I finally came to the conclusion that, you know, there's got to be an easier way. And certainly just tossing this thing in there and then fishing it back out, it works pretty good. You do have to have a pole to try to fish it back out later on. But I'm almost tempted to stick a little light rope on this thing, on the handle right here. Okay, and then have the rope hanging out of the tank, and then whenever I want to pull it out, I just grab the rope and yank it out, because it's hard to see, it's dark. Fishing it out is tricky. It can be done, but you know, if you were to put that thing inside of a tank this size, good luck getting a pole down there to try and pull it out. And this is, you know, the major problem, because we originally put something called an ozonator inside this tank. And our plumber said, oh yeah, it kills all the bacteria, it's great. That was probably before the days of UV. But what he neglected to tell me, and maybe he didn't know at the time, is that an ozonator, to kill 99% of the bacteria, works great on a plastic tank like that. That's plastic, polyurethane, or whatever it is. But guess what an ozonator does to a steel tank? It actually rots the inside of the tank, degrades it, and then you have all these holes where it's leaking, and you've got to toss the tank out after a few years. Now, if I hadn't used an ozonator on this tank, it probably would have lasted 50 years, who knows, you know. They can last pretty long without the problems that this tank's got because of the ozonator. I did talk to the plumber years later, and I said, well, why don't you tell me that it rotted the tank? He goes, because you didn't ask. You know, thank God for AI. You can ask all the questions in the world and you'll get the truth. But in any case, that's, you know, what we're going to have to do now with this tank is just cut it up, haul it off to the dump, get another tank like this, bring it over here and replace this tank with a plastic one, and, you know, use the little robot, the Wybot. And this little device here, Wybot, was about $175. So, you know, you could pay that much for a couple of filters to put in your house somewhere. And this would stop a lot of that stuff from getting into your house and into your filters that are in your house. And yes, you could put a pre-filter on the outside of the tank, which would be a really good idea. That would decrease the flow rate going into the tank, but it certainly is worth trying. And I would imagine you could have a pretty good flow-through filter with a very, you know, not real fine filter, still pretty porous, so a lot of water goes through, but it would still catch this sand. So that's another option that we'll be taking a look at and see if we can do. But for now, this little thing is like $175. The same company, Wybot, has these things that go up to like $1,500 and $2,000, depending on what your needs are with brushes and lights. And they should put a camera on it so you could see something down inside of a tank, but they don't really design them for tanks, and probably would be surprised that we're even using them, but maybe not. Although it doesn't mention anything about water tanks at their website. So in any case, that is it. You got the lowdown. Most people that don't have tanks could care less, but for those that do, you know, this might be very helpful. So, Personal Power Project, okay, personalpowerproject.com, and on the contact page will lead you back to all the real estate stuff that we're doing through National Home Buyers Investors Group, NH Big Inc. And basically what we're doing there is we're buying tax deed vacant land nationwide, and you can get these things for as low as $2,000. We're turning around doing joint ventures with people who just don't have the time or the knowledge of how to do this stuff, so they can continue doing whatever they love doing in life, and sign up with us. They're a joint venture. They put up the money, which is really only about $2,000 to maybe $10,000. We buy the properties, and then we 50-50 split the profits, and we go back out and find somebody who wants to buy the property at retail. And if you're doing owner financing, which is easy to do because you only paid a couple thousand for the vacant land anyway, then you can owner finance it, and when you sell it, you might get anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000. I just sold 30 acres in New Mexico for $30,000, and that's basically $1,000 an acre to people that wanted to owner finance. Give them a really good deal, 5 years to pay it off, and now you're cash flowing. And who wouldn't like to cash flow vacant property that basically can't be destroyed? You can destroy a rental property or commercial property really quick by having the wrong tenants, the wrong management. But when you got vacant land, there's really not much they can do. And if they start improving it and dumping money into it, the last thing they're going to do is renege on the payment and move out in the middle of the night, because they're going to lose everything. And we don't give them the deed until they've made their last payment. So it all goes through escrow, title company, and if they fail to make the payments, title company takes care of it, dumps them out, and we just go back out and sell it again. So as a joint venture partner for a couple $1,000s, to have somebody like us with the knowledge and do all this stuff for you and then split the profit, that's a pretty good deal. So personalpowerproject.com, at the website contact page will lead you back to National Home Buyers. It's got all the other things that we do. Be happy to help you. This is an easy, fun game when it comes to real estate, because I spent 40 years doing a lot of this stuff the hard way, and vacant land is as easy as it gets, and there's a lot of it. So, Dan Ringwald, here to help you out when you're ready. Thanks.